Hi. Let us now look at assessment criteria 2.3 in the module brand proposition. All right. So we're going to look at some theories that we can use to justify branding decisions in dynamic markets. In particular, we are going to look at an important area, which is how to conduct what we call a brand audit. A brand audit. So we'll be looking at what brand management is. I think we have discussed that and defined that already. But we will be looking at the process of a brand audit. We'll also be discussing the importance of market research, undertaking qualitative, quantitative research, and finding insights in order to justify your branding decisions. We'll be looking at stakeholder analysis. We've looked at stakeholder analysis before, so we'll be refreshing our thoughts on that. We'll also be looking at market conditions, ethics, corporate reputation, and how micro-marketing can bring about change in terms of social impact. And finally, how we can look at marketing objectives, how branding objectives can support marketing objectives. So the overall objectives in a marketing plan are marketing objectives, but there might be so many brands that are covered in the marketing plan. So each brand will have brand related objectives. All right, so I think the first item is to look at the definition of brand management and what are some of the key elements of brand management. So I remember as a young brand manager, I took a tough job from, changing from sales management to brand management. It was a tough decision for me. Very tough decision, right? I was in sales, doing really well, earning really well. I came down to 1/3 of my salary without any incentives to become a brand manager. It was a tough call for me. I took that decision when I was 23 years old. Okay. So I joined John Keel's, which is a top company, and I became a brand manager. For about 3.5 years, I was a brand manager. And then I got promoted as a marketing manager and then head of marketing. So my point I'm trying to drive across to you is brand management sometimes does not have a lot of incentives. It's not a very glamorous job. However, if you join a multinational, if you join a large organization like Nestle, Ceylon Tobacco, Unilever, John Keel's, you will learn quite a bit by being the brand custodian, by being the brand champion, right? So I believe it is very important for every marketer to understand what it is to run a brand practically. There is marketing sometimes that people practice inside an agency. Then there's digital marketers. Then there's sales managers. But branding is very critical for you to understand end to end how to manage a brand. So brand management is a broad term used to describe marketing strategies to maintain, improve, and bring awareness to the wider value and reputation of a brand. So what does it mean as a brand manager? You are the custodian of the brand. You are the face of the brand. So you'll be looking at the overall value of the brand, the equity, the awareness of the brand, the identity of the brand, how you'll change the identity We investigated all this in the brand equity pyramid. I hope you can remember Kevin Lane Keller's brand equity pyramid. Sometimes you need to rebrand, which means you need to change the colors or sometimes change the name. How do you ensure you create loyalty, brand loyalty? How do you create brand image? So that you position your brand that you can command a premium price in the marketplace. Brand recognition. Can people easily identify your brand in a cluttered marketplace? And how you look at the value of the brand, the value creation process of the brand. So brand management is a science. You have to enjoy it because the buck stops with you. All the problems come and fall in your lap, right? So a brand manager's job is a very important job. Now, when we look at a brand audit, guys, I'm going to look at different frameworks. This framework is given by CIM. Then I'm going to look at another process that I have written in my book. What do you mean by audit? Audit means you take stock of the current situation. Now, we every year we undertake a financial audit in a company. Similarly, you need to do a brand audit, a thorough brand audit once a year. And maybe you have to do one once a quarter. Sometimes if you have a dynamic market, you have to do one a month. You have to do one a month. Okay. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of the brand? How does the brand improve the world? Purpose means if you are not there in this world, will the world miss something? Example, if Apple, the brand Apple is not there in this world, if the brand Tesla is not there in this world, if the brand Coca-Cola is not there in this world, McDonald's is not there, will the world miss something? That is the purpose. That is the purpose. Good question to ask you is, if Louis is not there in this world, if Louis was never born, will the world be the same, or will it be better, or will it be worse? If you say if it has got better thanks to Louis, that means you have a purpose. That means you have a purpose. What is the vision of the brand? The long-term ambition. Different entrepreneurs define visions for brands. Long-term, 10 years, 50 years. Sometimes those brands like Walt Disney is over 100 years old. The founder's vision for the brand, ambition. Values. What are the distinctive qualities? What does it stand for? Mission statement. You can have a mission statement. What are you going to do to achieve the vision? The brand proposition. Why do I need the brand? What problems are it solving? The value proposition to the customer. The brand positioning. In Sinhalese, we call it Sthanagatakiri. How do you position the brand in the mind of the customer? The brand personality. The character of the brand. Personality. If your brand was a person, what would it be and who would it be? If Harley Davidson was a person, you will see very American person, rugged, male, dominant, fast. So that is the personality of the brand. The brand audience, who is interested in the brand? Who are your target audiences? So this is given from CIM UK. If you are to undertake a brand audit, you need to understand all these components or areas. So what is a brand audit? It lays the foundation for identifying strengths and opportunities. It systematically addresses the question about the overall category, the company and its offerings, competitors and customers, right? So when you're trying to audit a brand, you need to generate market insights, company insights, competitor insights, and customer insights. All forms of information and insights you have to absorb and know and research. Market insights, company insights, competitor insights, and customer insights. Now, this is from my book where I have a process for brand management. This is from my book in a chapter called brand management in my book, Marketing and Business Strategy. So in that, I have a few areas on how you would conduct a brand plan, So I call this the brand planning process. You see, the first step in the brand planning process is to audit the brand, or you audit the category, the health of the category. This involves analyzing the stability, usage habits, user profiles, segments serves, competitive rivalry, trends, pricing, all that. So the first step in brand planning, in the brand planning process, is to audit the brand. Where are we now? Where are we now? You conduct a comprehensive audit. Then you understand and evaluate the architecture of the brand, the components. What is the current level of awareness? Where is the brand standing right now in terms of market share? What is the perception and associations of the brand? What are the attitudes, the positioning, the brand image, the brand promise, the equity of the brand, the value of the brand, and what is the proposition of the brand, unique selling proposition. So the unique selling proposition can be the explicit testable claim of the brand. Explicit testable claim of the brand. So as you can see here, point number 1 and 2 is to really audit the current situation, to gather a lot of data about all these aspects. And then you set brand related objectives, SMART objectives. What do you mean by SMART? Specific, measurable, achievable, accurate, reliable, and time bound. All objectives must be SMART. As you can see the objectives here. Move the positive brand image score in the family soap category from 31 to 40%. Brand image score, improve the brand image score. Increase brand awareness and unprompted brand recall by 10% among ABC target audience. So you can see some of the brand objectives. Extend the brand into 2 new segments. Practice line extension into 5 new variants. We will do line extension, brand extension in the last assessment criteria. Increase brand equity score by 15%. Climb up the LMD brand finance brand ranking by 5 notches. So these are some of the brand examples of brand objectives. So every plan must have where are we now. Point number 1 and 2 is the audit, which means where are we now? Where are we as we speak? You need to audit the current situation. Then you can set objectives. Where do we want to be? Where do we want to be? Objectives, brand objectives. Usually about 5 to 6 brand objectives, smart brand objectives, smart objectives. And then we go into branding strategies. Branding strategies, we will look at in the last assessment criteria in chapter 3. Then how do you communicate the brand? What is your communication mix? Your media mix, TV, radio, press, magazines. Your choice of channels that you are going to use to reach the right target audience. Brand communications are very important part of brand management. Because if you don't communicate effectively, you are then not getting the best awareness for your brand. You can track the brand. Here's an example of a brand tracker. This is done by a research company where you monthly or quarterly track your brand. You can see some factors and you will get a score based on the research of customers, and you can track your brand's performance and compare it with your competitors. So brand 1 can be you, brand 2 can be your competitor, direct competitor. So brand trackers, you usually commission it to an external research agency. You have AC Nielsen, LMRB, TNS. There are so many research companies that do brand tracking studies. So it is important that you do this. So brand tracking is a exercise that you do based on research. Sometimes you do it quarter on quarter. Then you can evaluate all the ads that you run to see whether they are effective or not. Systematic tracking of brand performance is essential in the process of brand building. And there are many metrics such as brand salience measures, advertising salience, brand perceptions, brand imagery, brand communication, which will form overall the brand scorecard and monitored every quarter. So one of the things that we need to do to study the brand's environment is market research. Now, you know what market research is. Sometimes you can sit on a desk and do desk research through the internet. You can look at reports, consumption patterns, industry publications, Census and Statistics Department information, central bank reports. But you also need to sometimes go out there and collect data, primary research, primary data, field research, surveys. Sometimes you need to undertake ethnographic studies, observation research, qualitative focus groups, depth interviews. Now, all those are required to generate insights. And sometimes we do all the research for a brand, but we use 1 or 2 important insights. And that will be the insights on which we will develop our products, use it for innovation, product development, service. So brand research is a systematic process to understand consumer perceptions, attitudes, behavior, opinions, which is essential for refining branding strategies and forging deeper connections with the audience. So you cannot stop researching. You have to continuously research and find insights. Brand insights refer to the understanding of a brand's particular identity, consumer perceptions, strengths, weaknesses, and competitive edge. So I remember as a brand manager, I used to work with research agencies. I used to work with LMRP, AC Nielsen. And we used to do annual studies, quarterly studies, tracking studies, qualitative studies. And it was very useful because the data that comes out are very insightful. So every brand manager must look at data. It must be data driven. Your branding strategies must be data driven, right? And then we look at the importance of stakeholder analysis. Of course, we have done stakeholder analysis in the previous assessment criteria. You know that a stakeholder is someone who can influence the business or will be influenced by the business. A stakeholder is someone, is a person or a group who can influence the business or be influenced by the business. And stakeholders are three types. You have internal stakeholders, connected stakeholders, and external stakeholders. Three types of stakeholders, right? And we then looked at the different expectations. We call this the stakeholder expectation analysis, the different expectations of stakeholders. And we looked at the power and interest of stakeholders. We did all this in the previous assessment criteria. We call this the Mandela matrix or the power and interest matrix. So this is how you plot the stakeholders given the level of power and interest of stakeholders in the business. We also spoke about ethics before and social responsibility. Brands have to ensure that you abide by the ethical and moral philosophies. And this is something very important because today you can be the brand manager. Tomorrow, someone else will take over from you. And you have to pass on the mental and make sure you give the brand to the next brand manager in a better way than you got it. Therefore, you need to abide by the highest moral standards and ethics in communications. And many brand managers miss this. Sometimes we go behind sales and we forget that a brand is something that is enduring. A brand is enduring. You know, when you're promoting these luxury brands, sometimes they don't let people come and mess around with the brand. I know of some of the luxury brands that don't do any sales. It can be Christmas, it can be Black Friday, it can be Chinese New Year, but there are brands that don't do any sales. So if you go and ask them, are you on sale? They laugh and say, no, we don't do sales. If you want to buy our product, you buy our product. We don't do sales. No sales, right? They won't do buy one, get one free, 10% off, sweepstakes. They don't do that. So there are different agendas on which brand platforms are done. And ensuring that you're socially responsible, morally, you are giving a good product to the customer. Some brands are built on that platform. So you need to make sure that you sustain those principles and the values of the brand. Sorry, excuse me. And some of the Sri Lankan brands that are done really well are Spa Ceylon. You can see the identity of the Spa Ceylon, how beautifully the positioning is maintained. And that's why today they are present in so many countries. You can see brand Dilma, which is probably Sri Lanka's global brand. Then you can see brands like MAS, Brandix, who are doing a great job on promoting itself and its ethical stance. Right? So responsibility, corporate responsibility, how you advertise, how you position the brand, the ethical stance, the legal stance, managing your corporate reputation, selecting the right messaging and the channels, and being responsible for what you communicate. There's a beautiful subject called responsible marketing. Some of you might be doing that as well. But this is something very critical, fundamental to a brand. You need to ensure that you frame your messages responsibly. Now, some might argue, look, Louis, isn't this creative advertising? Doesn't it gain attention? Yes, indeed it does. But whilst it does that, it also does a lot of damage to the brand. Whilst you can get attention, whilst you can get about sex appeal and various other appeals that you might have with creative communications, you're also damaging the brand on the platform it is built. So everything is not about sales. If your brand's purpose in this world is to generate sales only, then you can do this kind of thing. But most brands are not built to only generate sales. They are built to transform the world. They are built to create a sense of purpose, and sales will come about by achieving those values. And we investigate the ethical marketing mix. Your products must be promoted based on a responsible platform, price transparency. Promotions must be honest, and your place, your channels, your distribution, it has to be fair. So this is called the ethical platform by Forrester Research, the ethical 4Ps. And reputation is something money can't buy. Reputation is something money can't buy. Reputation that you build over the years, hundreds of years, can be lost overnight, can be lost into one small mistake or error. So corporate reputation, brand reputation, is a set of meanings by which an organization is known, and stakeholders will remember the brand that way. Reputation is the overall estimation in which an organization is held by its customers. Corporate reputation is an individual's collective representation, all the messages. So you have to make sure you build the reputation of the brand. You cannot destroy the reputation of the brand. As a brand custodian, brand manager, it is very, very important that you manage this. And you can see how the brand is managed on an ethical platform by the Embark brand, right? And brands that are built strong are concerned about its values, concerned about its ethics. So social marketing or social impact can be defined as the effect on people and communities, societies, that happens as a result of an action or inaction of activity. So today you have many social brands. You can see Embark as a social brand, right? Where there's a lot of emotion attached. Rescues and rescuing strays. So you can see how the brand is built over a period of time. Micro marketing is an approach to advertising that tends to target a specific group of people in a very small niche market. That is what micro marketing is all about. So you target a very specific small group of people. Example, if you are going behind targeting people who are eating organic food. So organic food is a niche market. It's a micro market. So you then have to target them carefully because only few people will eat organic food, right? And finally, this slide is important because it talks about how your branding objectives connect to your marketing objectives. So you need to make sure you decide on your brand name, your logo, your tagline, fonts, colors, the brand promise, right? The brand promise, all that. So, right? Your fonts, colors, brand promise, visual identity, personality, reputation, tone of voice, all this. Those are your brand related activities and objectives. And marketing looks at a broader area of sales, promotions, advertising, right? Digital, lead generation, offers, campaigns, content marketing. So you can see marketing is a broad area. Branding, there can be many brands put together, will form the marketing plan. Okay. So there is a connect between brand management and marketing management. Brand objectives will help achieve marketing objectives. Brand objectives will help achieve marketing objectives. So in summary, this unit is about understanding brand management and brand auditing, market research and insights, which you spoke of, stakeholder analysis, looking at market conditions, ethics, reputation, social impact, micro marketing, and how branding objectives will support marketing objectives. That is assessment criteria 2.3. We will now attempt the exam, the mock exam, at the end of this assessment criteria. I'll see you in chapter 3.